Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hook Turn podcast with my good friend Sanbib Ahmed. How are you tonight, Sanbib?
Very, very good. The topic today I'm extremely interested in talking about because these are all cars that, especially the first one, all cars that have been highly anticipated. Another car that I quite personally like, even as a commuter car, and another car that's just interesting in today's market. So keen to talk about all of these cars.
One of the topics today is actually a car that the original iteration of Sanbib was absolutely obsessed with for many years and used to pester me incessantly to buy. And I think one of my greatest decisions in terms of buying cars was to not buy this car, and buy something much better. So I'm I'm keen to hear Sanbib's opinion on whether this updated version of this car is actually uh, you know, changed his mind even more, or he's been put off by it. So we'll talk about that soon. But we have our usual three topics today. So today we're going to be talking about the all new Toyota, actually not a pair of Toyota supercars. Firstly, the GR GT, and then Lexus has its take, so to speak, on this with the LFA concept. So that's an iconic name now. It's very historic, probably the greatest Japanese car of well, at least of the 21st century, and if not ever. So yeah, that's some exciting new models from Toyota. Secondly, we'll keep the second topic under wraps because I've already hinted at it. And then thirdly, we'll talk about the MG7, which is MG's take on the Toyota Camry, or their competitor to the Toyota Camry, which is interesting to see how they're going to tackle what is a juggernaut in the mid-size sedan segment. So let's get started with the Toyota GR GT. So this is uh, well, it's actually interesting because they've called it GR is the full name is Toyota Gazoo Racing, but you don't see any Toyota badges on this car actually. You only see the GR badge, which is something to talk about maybe just in a bit. But it's an all-new supercar by Toyota. It's a flagship supercar, so designed to compete with, like the Porsche 911, probably go even above beyond that. All of the, relevant Lamborghinis, what used to be the Audi R8, so on, Aston Martin, so on and so forth. So really a flagship supercar front end sorry, it is rail front is it front engined rear wheel drive. So and it uses an all new 4-liter twin turbo V8 combined with a hybrid electric combined with an electric motor. So it's sort of like a hybrid setup, but not an efficiency focused setup that you might find in the likes of like a Corolla hybrid or a Prius or something of that sort. It's a performance hybrid. So one of the most powerful engines, or most powerful powertrains that Toyota has ever made. It produces 478 kilowatts of power and an indicated 850 Newton meters of torque. So extremely powerful. And those rear wheels are being driven by an 8-speed automatic transmission. So yeah, that's a very like typical supercar type layout and engine and powertrain, very sort of traditional. I'm a bit surprised it's not all-wheel drive. They've decided to keep it rear-wheel drive, and you can see by the design, it's like a very, aggressive design. It has that cab back stance. So what that means is it has a really long bonnet. It vaguely reminds me of like a Japanese take on the Mercedes
Oh,
AMG GT with that really long bonnet, and also like reminds me of the almost like the Chevrolet Corvette as well with that especially not the current mid-engined version, but the previous sort of uh, front front engined front engine version. So it looks like that really long bonnet, quad exhausts, very functional air vents. And then you look in the interior, and it's not like Lexus Premium, but it has all the latest technology, very sort of driver focused, has like a big, digital instrument cluster, your infotainment system running Toyota's latest A-Reen software that is also coming to the new RAV4. And it uses an all aluminium chassis. So unlike the Toyota's previous supercar, the original LFA, which was all carbon fiber, this is all aluminium, and it has carbon fiber body panels. So the bonnet, the roof, sort of that are going to be uh, body panels sort of hanging onto that aluminium chassis. So yeah, very. I think what that means is that it's probably going to be a lot cheaper than the LFA, the original LFA was, but still expensive. So, Sanbib, what are your initial thoughts on this GR supercar?
It's interesting that despite the fact that Toyota is known as a very mainstream, obviously car manufacturer, every time they hint or release a supercar, it's still massive, massive news. Like the
Yeah.
GR Supra was a huge deal, the GR Yaris, the GR Corolla. It's actually sometimes more exciting on a mainstream manufacturer, especially one as big as Toyota, release a big sports car, even compared to when a Porsche or someone releases a sports car where it's
Mhm.
like expected, right?
Yeah.
It's usually a big deal. So, I mean, this car, yes, the reality is that obviously it will be a very, very highly limited car in Australia, 800K probably on the road, where so you're not going to see many of them. However, in saying that, it is a very interesting preview as to where technology will go. The other big thing is, of course, unlike the Lexus that we'll talk about later, yes, while this car has got hybrid components, it is still not a full BEV supercar, which is good. So it will show that obviously there will still be a life for internal combustion engine supercars for quite a while, well into 2023. Of
Mm.
course. And also and also like for companies like Toyota, these supercars are often a way to show what their latest technologies look like. And while 99% of people, 99.9% of people never have the opportunity to drive this car, some of the technology that this car will actually innovate on will possibly actually trickle down later on to other cars within Toyota's lineup, even the regular sports car, sorry, within Toyota's lineup, you might see some of the technology in this car trickle down. So the design is obviously quite incredible. I don't know what it would be like on the road, obviously extremely imposing,
Yeah, very
but
wide.
yeah, very wide, so it would not be a car you'd probably easily drive on a public road. But also, it's interesting that they're actually going to be using a version of this in the GT3 racing, so that'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see. Speaking of, the only reality of me ever driving this car will probably be in a video game of some sort in 2027 or something. I'll probably be driving in Gran Turismo 8 or Forza Horizon 6, and I might be able to give you my impressions of it there. But yeah, that's pretty much the reality for the vast majority of people driving this car. Yeah, but it is obviously, in terms of technical detail, Vivek, you covered it all. But yeah, it's just more like cool to see that Toyota is still investing in sports cars. They still see an economic viability in sports cars, and especially an economic viability in internal combustion engine sports cars. They're not suggesting that, hey, we have to go back to full EV, rather, hybrid is probably the way to go, which is very, very good. And we won't be, production is planned for 2027. Probably in Australia, we won't see it till late 2027, or realistically, almost 2028. So it's many, many years before we'll see this in person. But yes, it's good to see that Toyota is still innovating in this space.
Yeah. I reckon the price, I think it'll be cheap, much cheaper than 800K. I reckon 250. I think that that'll be a good price for this.
250K?
Yeah, yeah. I
No
reckon.
way. No way. Not two. That's crazy cheap for a car like this. 250K. Come on.
Yeah. I mean,
No,
look,
no, no.
look at base 911 is like, on maybe
But
300.
this is not even competing with the 911. This is like a step above the 911, surely.
Yeah, but like it's also like it's not like a premium manufacturer. It's still like a GR. Like I reckon they'll compete on price. Like
I mean, it's
oh,
still rumors, but if it's the $500,000 US as rumored, yes, it would
sure.
translate to
Maybe maybe the Lexus version might be, but like I reckon the GR
250 Australian dollars is way too low. At minimum, it'll be close to 500,000.
half
At
a million.
million, yeah, at million, 500,000 Australian. There's no way it'll be less than that. Like, how many of these are even going to be made? Much less.
No,
Like
this
they
is gonna be. I reckon this is gonna be like a series production. Like, I
no,
mean, let's see. But like, yeah, I don't think it'll be 500,000. That's like, why would you buy this over like a? You could get like a Ferrari for that price. Like, why would you buy this over
I mean,
over?
LFA still has its fans, and that was also, but yeah, maybe, who knows? But
Yeah,
I don't think Toyota are chasing sales with this anyway. So, like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And also, if you think about it, this GR Supra was like 100K. You're really saying this car would be only 150K more than the Supra? I don't think so.
Well, let's see, because like, like you look at like the Corvette, which is 220 now, 227. That's mid-engine V8. Like similar performance, probably similar performance figures to this car. Um, yeah, no, I think 500,000 is too much. Maybe okay, I will go up to 300 or 350 max, but I reckon it has to be less than 300K. Like if
Well, we'll
it's
find out in 2028. We can
yeah.
come back to this in
Yeah,
2028.
yeah, we can come back to this episode and see who was correct. But like, look, I listened to the on the Toyota website, or they have a clip of the engine noise, which sounds good. Um, I mean, nothing like the LFA V10 by any means. That car, used to howl. But this car, sounds like a V8, very loud. I don't know how authentic that noise is, of how much of it is sort of synthesized. But yeah, and I think so. Toyota recently did like a strategic shift. So the Toyota sort of group has now sort of divided itself into five brands. So those five brands are Daihatsu, which is like their entry-level brand that is not sold in Australia and is really sort of Japan focused and focused on their K cars, which are these really tiny cars. So that's sort of like Toyota's entry-level brand. Then you have the main Toyota brand, which is the sort of mainstream brand. Now, and then GR, which used to be like Toyota's, what M is to BMW and what AMG is to Mercedes, has sort of like been split out into its own brand. So yes, you still have like the Toyota GR Yaris and GR Corolla, but those cars, and the GR86, but those cars were sort of made before this strategic shift. So you have the GR brand, which is now like its own mark, so to speak. And then you have Lexus, and then you have Century. So you have like this sort of house of five brands basically. And so GR, with its split into its own mark, I think this is sort of, their halo car of the GR mark. So, they have like this sort of like if you can think of all the GR models, like the full fat GR models, as you have the GR86, of like, if you look at it from a pricing perspective, GR86 is the cheapest one, then GR Yaris, GR Corolla, then you had the GR Supra, which has been superseded, but and now you have this GR GT, which is sort of like the apex of that GR full fat GR lineup. So this is sort of like the halo car for that. So yeah, I think it's good that Toyota, it shows like what sort of scale Toyota has. Like yes, they can turn out the humdrum in, their hundreds of thousands, but they also have scale to produce these like breathtaking supercars. So yeah. Now, Sandeep, should we quickly touch on the Lexus version as well,
Yep,
which
yep.
is interesting. So Lexus, I think has come out with its version of this car as well, and by its version, it's actually, what's interesting is that they're saying that the chassis is the same, so it uses the same sort of aluminium space frame with the carbon fiber components for certain body panels like the roof, the bonnet, etc. But the focus of the vehicle is like to be a more of a sort of slightly more of a comfortable, like slightly more luxurious car. And what I find interesting is the name and the powertrain. So the powertrain, they've actually, this is not using the same powertrain as the GR GT, so it's not a combustion engine at all. They've actually said this is going to be a full electric supercar, which I find extremely fascinating, especially given the reduced sort of demand for high performance EVs at the moment. So I find that to be very, very fascinating. And then the name. So the name they've decided to go take on sort of the big kahuna here and directly call it the LFA, and which is I think is a very brave decision because yes, the LFA when it first came out was not like, you know, hailed as this incredible car right from the get-go, but over time its reputation has gone up dramatically as people have realized the effort and the like absolutely painstaking, insane attention to detail and craftsmanship and the engine in particular, that V10 Yamaha engine, just probably the best sounding engine in my opinion ever made. So to so to take the name of a car that was really renowned for its engine and to say it's now a battery electric supercar is quite the 180 in my opinion. So, Sanbib, do you have any thoughts on, Lexus uh putting a full BEV powertrain in the LFA and not using that V10 or a combustion engine powertrain?
It's interesting. First, unlike the GR-GT that we just spoke about, this is still a concept, so this might never actually become a production car, so we're not sure. And
Yeah.
because it's still a concept, it almost certainly, even if it does come into production, won't be till the late 2020s, possibly late 2028, 2029. But it is interesting. The design is extremely amazing.
Yeah.
It looks obviously incredible. Though the it looks a bit more like the GR-GT looks a lot more aggressive,
Yeah.
a lot more Corvette type style, whereas the Lexus LFA concept does
Classy.
look a bit more, well, like the almost like a modern interpretation of the original. The rear lights are much more modern, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there isn't as much to say about it because it is a concept in the
Mm.
sense that as you said, it's a full electric car, at least in concept form.
Yeah.
But who knows? They might, if they ever do come into production, they might go back to hybrid. We don't know because we sort of know that
Mm.
full electric EVs are not really that popular. So yeah, and yeah, following up on the LFA is obviously quite an old car now,
Yeah.
ended production in 2012. We're talking, well over a
Think
decade old now. But
2014 or yeah, but yeah,
yeah,
something like that. But yeah, well, over a decade, yes, yeah,
yeah, over a decade ago. So yes, it still obviously has, especially among older car fans who remember it, still is quite revered. That Yamaha
yeah,
thing engine is obviously extremely famous, the sound, etc. And as I was saying, a bunch of the tech from the LFA did actually end up trickling down. I think it was one of the first to debut that the instrument cluster that is now
yeah,
used by, well, certainly the previous generation used by some of the Lexus cars as well.
yeah,
So yeah, I'll be curious to see, but yeah, unlike the GR-GT, there's not as much to say because yeah, this is still a concept. Because it's a battery electric car, performance wise, there's not much like we know it'll be quick, but all EVs are quick at this point. There's not really too much differentiating them. But it will be interesting to see, does Lexus pursue this full EV sports car, or will they, in any kind of production form, go back to a hybrid like its Toyota counterpart?
yeah. It's interesting. Like, so firstly, with the design, like you can see with some of the cues, they have tried to modernize to Samuel's point, they have tried to modernize the uh LFA design queue. So for example, the brake lights, they have that inverted triangle, which is sort of harks back to the three exhaust tailpipe original LFA. So they had the triangular exhaust pipes with the original LFA. And I'm just on the sort of Lexus website and I'm just reading some of their press releases because I feel like a lot with Toyota and Lexus, a lot of they're very with a lot of their press materials, they're very sort of like they you can sort of there's a lot of reading between the lines and you can tell a lot from their intentions by just not taking them at their word but like reading between the lines. So they're saying here the name LFA is not merely bound to the roar of an internal combustion engine. It represents uh, an iconic presence, a torchbearer embodying the pinnacle of technology and skill that every generation of our engineers is honor bound to pass on. So now what that sounds like a lot of like, very idealistic, aspirational mumbo jumbo, but what I am taking from that is that the LFA, how Lexus sees the LFA is as a torchbearer for something that introduces radical new innovations, and then that sort of filters down to the rest of the Lexus lineup. And they have made a clear commitment that this is going to be, a battery electric inherent in its battery electric vehicle powertrain. So they basically said confirmed it's going to be BEV, not hybrids. What I think, and I'm willing to take a wager on this, is this is going to be the first production car, so to speak, that has a solid state battery from Toyota. So I think this LFA is going to debut Toyota's solid state battery technology, because they have said before, and this was maybe in 2023, 2024, where they're like, yes, we are progressing the development of solid state battery technology, and it will debut in a expensive performance car first, and then it'll filter it down to the rest of the lineup. So I think the LFA, this concept is going to be the global debut of Toyota's solid state battery technology. Now, what that actually means is that it's going to have a lot more range, potentially in the 1,000 kilometer mark, depending on if you think about what some of the specs that Toyota has hinted at before. And it's going to be a lot quicker to charge. So it'll charge, in a matter of like, 10 to 15 minutes, from like basically zero to full. So given you have the right charging infrastructure, so it'll charge significantly more quickly than today's BEVs. And the other benefit of solid state battery technology is that it will also have benefits for battery longevity, and also in terms of the energy density. So you can package the battery in a smaller space, much lower in the car, and that's why you can see this car isn't like lifted like a traditional, like sort of a lot of the EVs now that use like a skateboard chassis, where they put the batteries in the floor of the vehicle. Like, it sits very low to the ground. So I think this is going to be the basically the debut of Toyota's solid state battery technology. So that's why I'm really excited for this car.
Mhm.
Anyway, Sammy, do you have anything to add?
No,
Or
there's not much to add with this one. Let's move
yeah.
on.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. Okay, look, let's move on to now our second topic, which actually was Sanbib's favorite car about maybe 4 years ago, almost four
Four
years
years ago,
ago.
because this was you got your M240i in 2022.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, this was
yeah. So
before that.
4 years ago.
Twenty
Yes.
twenty to 2021. Yeah,
Yes.
so
And Sanbib could not stop talking about this car. He was absolutely obsessed with it. So now it's the time for the big drum roll, not literal drum roll, but the big reveal. So it's the new Kia Seltos, and this goes to show perhaps how pragmatic Sanbib is as a person with his car buying ambitions. But anyway, so there's a new generation of the Kia Seltos. It's an all new model actually, so it's not just a facelift. It moves to a new platform, the K3 platform. So it's shared with the Kia K4, the latest Hyundai i30 sedan. It's the same sort of chassis and architecture. All new styling. It's a lot more sort of, it follows Kia's, opposites united design language. So you can see like it sort of, I reckon it very closely resembles the Kia EV3. Of course, this is not an electric vehicle, but this is a combustion engine model, but it looks it has that same sort of design language as the EV5, EV3, EV9, very similar, and also the Sportage to potentially a lesser extent, but same sort of like vertical uh, daytime running lights, tail lights as well, and then you have that light bar on the rear as well. So yeah, very sort of like a very sort of geometric design, so to speak. Very sort of squared off. So I think it looks good. Um, Now in terms of powertrains, I think in Australia, we will get as the base model, I think we'll get the carryover engine, which is going to be a 2-liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder engine, so no turbos or anything. So very gutless powertrain, to be honest. 110 kilowatts of power, 179 newton meters of torque, and a CVT. Then there might be a turbo powertrain, so that will be 142 kilowatts of power to 65 newton meters of torque. So that's 1.6 liter turbo. So I reckon, with Kia's typical product planning lineup, they'll form up maybe the top of the line version or the GT line, so to speak. And then I think down the track we might see the hybrid as well. So we don't have much details on the hybrid, but yeah, we'll see. I think that hopefully the hybrid will be very fuel efficient, and will probably compete with things like models like the Corolla Cross hybrid and so on. So, yeah, Sanbib, what are your initial thoughts on the design of this car? We don't really have much info on the pricing, but design, technology, overall, how do you think it'll go in the market?
I mean, it's basically like a thing version. It's like a petrol version of the EV5 almost, right? Its design isn't too
The
dissimilar.
EV3, right? I think it's a bit smaller than the EV5, but
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
yeah.
regardless, they all look the same basically now at this point. Like I'm just looking at the EV5 now, and it's literally got the same front and the same rear lights.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, I think it's I think though this one is a bit bigger than the original Seltos, so I suspect it will
Yeah.
be not quite EV3 size, maybe not quite as big as the EV5, but probably not as small as the EV3.
Mm.
But point being, this is basically a petrol version of
Yep.
those two cars.
Yep.
Design wise, exactly the same, basically interior wise, exactly the same.
Yeah.
So to that extent, it'll be much better because obviously there are still people who are hesitant to buy a full EV. This
Yep.
original Seltos was quite cheap. I have a feeling this one won't be nearly as cheap. Almost
Yeah.
certainly
I
will
think the
start.
original Seltos was started under 30 grand, right?
Correct, it did, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
suspect that even the cheap-ish one of these will be closer to 40. I reckon.
Yeah.
There's no way that they'll be even mid-30s.
34.
Well, I mean,
Maybe 35.
uh,
Below 35.
maybe 30. I don't think so. I reckon high 37, 38
Really? Okay.
for the base. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They can't be that cheap. It's significant improvement. It's not as something.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
but I think it'll be quite successful because obviously Kia is now a much more trusted brand.
Yep.
Again, because it's not a full EV, it will still have those people who are still not ready to make the jump. And certainly if it introduces the hybrid, then it will be another big thing because it will probably be cheaper than the Sportage, or at least the current gen Sportage.
Yep. Yep.
The new gen Sportage, once it adopts this design language, will also certainly go up in price. But
Yep.
yeah, the Seltos has been one of the biggest successes for Kia in the Australian market. This
Mm.
one will just be as big because it's design-wise, interior is quite nice, exterior is quite nice, obviously super practical. The
Yep.
original is one of the most practical small SUVs there is. They already had one of the biggest boot spaces. This one is an even bigger boot space, 536 liters.
Yep.
And so basically, yeah, you're at like this is going for all EVs, but nearly all of them are getting bigger and bigger. So
Yep.
this one is obviously also getting slightly bigger, but still not overly sized. So yeah, but other than that there isn't much to say because it's so similar to all of other Kia's
Yep.
cars. It's just not a full EV. It's just a standard petrol car, which will hopefully make it a lot more popular.
Yep.
Late 2026 probably means we've still got quite a while before we actually even see it. And the current gen Seltos will almost certainly get great run-out deals while they're trying to get
Yep.
while they're preparing for this launch. So, and the current gen Seltos is a pretty good car even still now.
Mm.
Pretty good, decent tech. So, that car will still be good. And certainly for people looking for a runabout, if the base model goes back to under 30, which I think it already is anyway, but if it does, then you'll find that that's actually still a practical car, still a decent looking car, still decent tech,
Yep.
especially with the current facelift. And yeah, so, but yeah, still another option in the SUV market and really going to show how now pretty much all mainstream cars will adopt this pretty much all screen layout with not that many buttons. Like it's not just the Chinese that will be doing it, it's every mainstream manufacturer now.
Yeah. I mean, I think to Kia's credit, like if you look at the interior, they do have physical controls, like for the key, air conditioning and HVAC, as we call it, heating, ventilation, air conditioning controls. They do have physical controls for that, and I think the drive mode selector as well, potentially is physical. I'm just trying to blow up the interior image, but like, which is good because I think a lot of the Chinese brands just put everything into the touch screen. So I applaud Kia for keeping some physical controls, but then still having the, typical dual 12.3-inch layout. And then you have Kia's latest design is they have the screen that actually shows what the temperature of the climate control and the airflow and all of that. That's in the middle of the two displays. So yeah, interesting design. I do like the exterior and interior design. It's very clean. It's very sort of uniform. It's not cluttered or anything. So I just hope, my one hope is that by the time the Seltos is introduced, and I assume that like Kia's other cars, it will also undergo a local ride and handling tune. So I hope they keep that up. But I hope they also decide to refine some of those annoying safety alerts. So um, I'm thinking by the time this comes out, late 2026, hopefully Kia has had some time to polish those annoying, like intelligent speed limit alert systems, the really intrusive lane departure warning, lane keeping assistance systems. I'm hoping that they've finally decided to polish those and refine those systems, because this is like the sort of like after the EV3, EV5, new Sportage. They've had several chances now to get this one right. So let's see what happens. But yeah, looking forward to seeing this on the road. Yeah, I think the pricing will have to be competitive to keep up with like the Chinese brands, because I think those are probably Kia's biggest threat now. Chery is doing really well, MG is doing really well, BYD has a range of EV options, and of course this is not an EV, but it'll sort of be competing in the same space and price bracket. So yeah, Kia's going to have to be very aggressive with the pricing for the Seltos. So let's see what happens. Okay, I think we might leave the Seltos there, but before I move on, I have to ask Sanbib, do you like this one? How much more do you like this one than the original Seltos?
I think now that it's now not as distinctive, as I
Okay.
said. It now it feels
Boring.
like, yeah, it feels quite similar to, yeah, the rest. But I mean, again, I guess that's what the current market wants.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not
Well,
much you can do
I
there.
think this will go. I think this is a good indication that'll be Sanbib's next car, given how boring it is. All right, cool. We will now move on to our final topic, which is the MG7. So MG has, I would say, somewhat ambitiously decided to go straight for the jugular and try to compete with the Toyota Camry. They've introduced a new mid-size sedan with a sort of like a fastback profile. So what that means is that the rear tailgate opens up, so it's not a traditional sedan with a separate boot per se, but it looks like a sedan. But anyway, so it starts at 44,990 as the only one spec that's fully loaded. Has 14 speaker audio system, adaptive suspension, adjustable deployable rear spoiler, which is a rarity, especially in a car under 50K. I don't think there's any other car under 50K which has like an electronically deployable rear spoiler, which I don't think does so much for the aerodynamics, it just looks really cool. So yeah, frameless doors, 19-inch alloy wheels. In terms of the powertrain, 2-liter turbo engine producing 170 kilowatts of power, 380 Newton meters of torque. So it's reasonably punchy. Not a hybrid or anything, just a straight combustion engine powertrain. Yeah, packed with features, head-up display, 12.3-inch touchscreen, CarPlay, inbuilt satellite navigation, panoramic roof standard as well, 360-degree camera, wireless phone charging, and yeah, so the tech and the safety features, like if you are doing a tick the box exercise, it's all there. I think it has heated seats and all of that jazz as well. So I think it's an interesting design. 44,990. So just for context, that's slightly dearer than the base Camry hybrid Ascent Sport. So that's the actually the Ascent Sport, I believe, is the mid-grade. Is it the Ascent Sport a mid-grade Camry now, or is it the base Camry? I have to let me. Now I need to look this
I
up.
think, or maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they've changed the Camry lineup.
To be fair, I don't think too many people cross shop this with the Camry, so to speak. If you're
Uh,
buying a Camry, you're buying a Camry. Not too many people like, let me cross shop the Camry with almost a
yeah.
very sporty, uh, lift back like this. It's more compete with the Sonata.
Mm.
and possibly the Skoda Octavia. But
The,
really, it's almost in its own category entirely, almost.
yeah. So the Camry Ascent Sport is the mid-spec Camry. So that's 42,990, and this MG is 44,990. So slightly more expensive, but then it's also cheaper than the flagship Camry, which is 53,990. So basically the just above a mid-spec Camry, which is
I think it looks a lot better than the Camry, I'll be honest.
yeah.
It's a lot more
Yeah.
striking.
Yeah, it
But
does. It's definitely distinctive. I'm keen to see it on the road. Like the photos make me, it reminds me a little bit of the original Hyundai i45, but more refined. It has that same sort of swoopy styling. And I think from the rear three quarters view with the sort of kick in the rear door and that sort of rear haunches, they've tried to almost slightly, and I don't know how Sam is going to react to this comment, but I think they've tried to vaguely ape even like a Bentley Continental GT with
maybe.
the curve over the rear, the sort of rear haunches and the rear over the rear wheels. So quad exhaust looks very sporty. I am keen. Yes, I am keen to see it on the road. I'm not sure how well it will do. Like, it's very tempting after sales offer. I think it's a MG has a 10-year warranty now. So, yeah, and it looks luxurious from the photos, but I think this is a car that you'd have to sit in and see what it's like. So, yeah, Sanbib, any further thoughts?
This market is almost as niche as their cyber stuff, right?
Yeah.
Very fast saloon type thing. But then the reality is, if you're buying one of these, you'd probably just spend a bit more, get a full German BMW or Audi or Merc, right? Like, I can't imagine too many people in the market for this kind of car would then be looking at a Chinese brand like that.
Mm,
Surely at that is within this particular segment, it's like you're buying a Camry, and if
yeah.
you want a sporty sedan, you're not going to look at an MG. You're going to look straight towards the German car, right?
Yeah.
Broadly speaking. I don't know how well the Sonata's doing. I can't imagine very well, given I barely see any on the roads.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're so I mean, good on them for, I guess, having it, and I guess it's something to similar to the Cyberster to have in their showrooms as like a halo-ish model,
Yeah.
similar to the Stinger for the Kia for a while before it was discontinued.
Mm,
But for 44,990, if you're in the market for this specific car, I actually think it's a pretty good buy. You're getting a pretty good looking car. You're getting a pretty nice interior. You're getting the engine is not bad, not
yeah.
great, but not
Yeah.
bad, like
It's
not
okay. Yeah.
bad. Yeah, it's not as powerful as the Sonata, which I think has over 400 Newton meters of torque. Obviously, significantly more powerful than a Camry, but and probably not as powerful as Skoda Octavia RS,
Mm,
maybe similar-ish to the base Skoda Octavia.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting car. I'd love to know who actually is in the market for one of these in the sense, who's
Yeah.
in the market for one of these from MG. There are
Yeah.
people in the market for these cars, of course there are, but
Yeah. I mean,
as I said, you'd
yeah.
probably be looking at like 44,990. You get a slightly used BMW or Audi or Mercedes in a similar sort of the CLA or an A7 or something. Maybe, I mean, maybe not slightly used, maybe a couple of years old, but you'd get the badge
Yeah.
compared to this.
Look, in terms of like new car buyers from in the mid-size sedan segment, like yes, it is shrinking. It's still, I think, basically like fundamentally, there's a lot of taxi and Uber drivers who drive these mid-size sedans, and the Camry just dominates that market. Private sales are of these mid-size sedans are very, very low. And if you define private sales as people who don't drive Uber or don't use it for taxi or rental purposes. So I think, yeah, Sonata is a direct comparator because it's also like sort of has sporty vibes. Skoda Octavia, actually, now that you mentioned it, I mean, I think the Skoda Octavia is like maybe, yeah, slightly more expensive, but also I think it also starts, the base Skoda Octavia will start at a similar price. So and yes, I think this is technically one size up because Skoda Octavia is using like it's almost like a slightly bigger Golf, but a sedan version of that. But I think practically they're very similar size. So yeah, and Skoda is again more of an established brand, in the sense that you know it's like perceived to be more premium. MG, yeah, not so much. So yeah, I am interested to see who buys this car, but yeah, we'll see. Okay. I think we might leave it there for this week's episode of the Hook Turn podcast. Thank you very much again for listening. Like, subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and yeah, we're looking forward to talking to you next time. All right. Bye. Thank you.